In the top stories, 3 bills to receive second reading. New scams in Jamaica leave many in thousands of dollars of debt, and New Zealand legalizes assisted dying. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Monday, November 8, 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, 3 bills will receive a second reading when National Assembly meets on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris will move the second reading of an amendment to the Drugs Prevention and Abatement of the Misuse and Abuse of Drugs Act. Minister of Consumer Affairs, the Honorable Wendy Phipps, will move the second reading of the Bureau of Standards Bill, and Minister of Transport, the Honorable Lindsay Grant, will move the second reading of an amendment to the Vehicle and Road Traffic Bill. The National Assembly will be broadcast live on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM and participating radio stations. It can also be viewed live on TV, ZIZ TV Channel 5 in St. Kitts and Channel 98 in Nevis. It will also be streamed live on www.zizonline.com. Copies of the bills can be found on the website of the St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service under Bills. Under the theme, It's Your Union Too, Workers Unite, Stand Up for Your Rights, the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union hosted its 82nd annual conference on Sunday at the SWMC Conference Room at Taylor's Range. Among those in attendance were workers, members of the workplace, management, and representatives of the Diplomatic Corps. Guest speaker Samuel Duggins, founder and chief executive officer of Montreville Farms, spoke about his vision for the agriculture sector and said trade unions can be vital actors in this regard. According to Duggins, quote, "This move towards technology and sustainability can only result in wider engagement and the expansion of membership, particularly as it relates to women and youth. And with that said, I believe that this sector is ripe for the picking, pun intended. In this regard, trade unions can and will serve as vital actors, particularly because of your experience in managing and addressing industrial change and your overall commitment to ending hunger and poverty," end quote. Following the day's public session was the election of a new executive body. The 6 officers are President Sidney Bridgewater, First Vice President Michelina Charles Hazel, Second Vice President James Pemberton, General Secretary Precious Mills, Assistant Secretary Curtis Francis, and Treasurer Tanissa Keynes Charles. The floor members are George Dixon, Eva Henderson, Sean Kelly, Julian Morton, Oscar Mills, Stanley Franks Jr., Mitchell Slater, Nadine Natta, and Charlotte Salters. The St. Kitts Eco Park will soon be the home to a new apiculture and biodiversity project sponsored by the Global Environment Facility Small Grants UNDP Country Program. That's according to Carleen Henry Morton, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, during her appearance on the most recent edition of Working for You. The project is an international initiative aimed at establishing a sustainable apiculture or beekeeping industry in 6 Caribbean countries, including St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, as well as Samoa in the Pacific.
The project aims to successfully undertake the following: facilitate the establishment and development of 2 apiaries, one on St. Kitts and the other on Nevis. So each country will start with about 10. And the St. Kitts Eco Park is the designated site on St. Kitts, of course, and it has been selected because of its emphasis on environmental sustainability and biodiversity conservation.
Stakeholders will work closely with beekeepers in St. Kitts and Nevis to develop the sector.
Now we want to facilitate the participation of beekeepers and small apiculturalists in all training organized under the project. So it's not just about throwing money, but it's about upskilling people as well, right? We are going to engage in the redistribution of complete hives to beekeeping clusters aimed at supporting food security and livelihood for the members. So the idea is that we start off with 10 at Eco Park, and then once we look after those hives, we get about 20. Now, we hold on to the original 10, and that second 10, that batch, we give 2 to a cluster in Sandy Point, 2 to some people in Molyneux, 2, you understand, so they start their little business.
She added that when their business branches off, they will then help others to grow theirs. She noted that based on research, there are only 75 managed hives in the Federation. The project, which is expected to be implemented in November, is budgeted at $882,300. We now move to news on the regional scene. In Jamaica, since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, fraudsters have been taking the opportunity to scam citizens who are eager to make a quick dollar. Customers of the National Commercial Bank are to be on the lookout to protect their assets and not fall for these scams known as account loading. More in this CVM Live News report.
Account loading seems to be the latest sketchy scheme for making some quick cash. If you have an empty NCB account and a willing spirit, half of up to $300,000 could be yours. But what is account loading? Who really benefits, and should you be worried?
Fraudsters seeks to create fictitious IG Instagram profile mimicking financial institutions to say that they can load customers' account by either giving them a loan or a salary upload of a certain amount, and then the customer would not need to provide any documentation or anything like that.
These Instagram pages have as many as 10,000 followers, posting pictures and videos of transfers made, tricking users into thinking the process is legit. One loader explains how it works. First, they will need your login information to an account that can be empty. Then they request the money. The account holder will then be asked to physically withdraw an agreed amount after each transaction before an inside link clears the transaction history, ergo the money. Some fraudsters will go as far as creating an account for the less tech-savvy NCB customers, asking for sensitive information such as TRN and token numbers. However, Nicholson explains that where the money is coming from will leave those who fall for this scam with more debt.
That they can benefit from a fully digital facility that we have, which is the Fast Cash or the payday loan facility. It is a fully digital facility where the customers, based on the activities on your account, then you can benefit for a loan amount up to $300,000. So anywhere from 150, 200, $300,000 the maximum.
Janelle Powell, CVM Live.
Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has announced that the state of emergency will be lifted by the end of November. TTT News' Terry-Ann Brown-Campbell has more.
After 6 months of lockdowns and curfews, persons in Trinidad and Tobago will be free to come and go without certain restrictions come November 30th. In addition, businesses will be free to set their own operating hours. This, as Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says, he will not seek to extend the existing state of emergency.
The state of emergency is coming to an end at the end of this month, and as of now, I don't have any intention of asking the Parliament to extend it.
Any further extension of the SOE would have required a 3/5 majority to pass the measure in the Parliament.
Curfew comes out of the emergency. You can't have the curfew if the emergency has ended. But I think by now we would have gone into a routine, and I think by now the population should be able to cope and to do what needs to be done, so because this is no longer a short-term situation. This situation that we're in it for the long haul.
The Prime Minister made the announcement while addressing a media conference at the Piarco International Airport on Saturday. The media conference marked his return from Glasgow, Scotland, where the Climate Change Summit is being held. Terry-Ann Brown-Campbell, TTT News.
Internationally, New Zealand has legalized assisted dying. It comes more than a year after voters favored the law in a referendum. More in this Euronews report.
New legislation supporting assisted dying has come into force in New Zealand. Voters backed the change in legislation in a referendum more than a year ago. The new law allows terminally ill patients to request doctors to end their lives. It's meant for people who are terminally ill and are likely to die within 6 months or are in an advanced state of irreversible decline.
Iraq's leaders have condemned what they're calling an assassination attempt on the Prime Minister as a heinous and cowardly attack. Armed drones targeted Mustafa al-Kadhim's residence in the country. Al Jazeera's Mahmoud Abdel Wahed reports from Baghdad.
Heightened security near Baghdad's Green Zone. It comes after the Prime Minister's residence in the fortified area came under attack. The government says 3 armored drones were flown over the compound of Mustafa al-Kadhimi. One hit the building, 2 others were shot down.
To all of those who were worried, my residence was targeted in a cowardly attack. Thanks to God and His grace, all of those working with me and I are doing well. These cowardly rockets and these cowardly drones do not help in building nations, nor can they be part of any future.
The government said it's investigating the incident. The US State Department has offered to help. In Iran, the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council called it a terrorist attack. He blamed foreign intervention for what he described as new sedition. The attack came 2 days after demonstrations against the results of parliamentary elections in October left at least 1 person dead and many injured. Pro-Iranian parties lost about 2/3 of their seats in the vote. They've accused the Electoral Commission of rigging the results and demand a recount. Many of their supporters are members of the Popular Mobilization Forces, the party's military wings. They've since occupied areas near the heavy fortified Green Zone. That's home to international diplomatic missions and government offices. Pro-Iranian groups are among the demonstrators here, but these protesters deny they carried out the attack and say it may have been orchestrated by a third party to foment violence between them and security forces. Pro-Iranian armed groups have been accused of carrying out similar drone attacks over the past 2 years against US military bases and facilities in the Green Zone. Some protesters said the drone attack targeted them and the government.
There are evil people behind it who want to create chaos and divert the public's attention away from the main cause, demanding justice for those who were killed on Friday and stir animosity between the government and the Popular Mobilization Force.
Some of these protesters are skeptical. They say the attack was fake and accuse al-Kadhimi of pretending to be a victim. They're vowing to continue their demonstration. Mahmoud Abdel Wahed, Al Jazeera, Baghdad.
And now for the weather. Present weather is fair. Winds are a light breeze of 6 miles per hour from the east. The temperature for today is 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves not exceeding 5 feet. The weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis today says it will be partly cloudy with a 30% or low chance of showers. Tonight will be mostly clear. Sunset today will be at 5:37 p.m. and sunrise tomorrow at 6:12 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.